You're listening to America's Diesel Podcast. I'm gonna need you to send that to me.
Oh, I'll do that right now. I know how to do that.
Clam chutney.
You're actually at the top of my list.
I'm not the only person who sends you stuff on Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got that nervous laugh. It's so good. Let's get right into this episode.
Oh, Lordy.
Hey, everybody. It's Ben, Tyler, special guest, Jesse. He's back. And
From the
Corey.
shop.
And we now have the ability to have 4 microphones, which means Corey is here as well.
4 mics.
We have 4 people right now.
4 mics.
Yeah.
That's a lot of glizzies.
Damn.
That is.
Yeah.
Speaking of glizzies, you want to explain yourself when you walked in here?
Oh, I was walking in eating a hot dog. And they're like, you want to do a podcast? I'm like, in a minute.
No, now.
Shove that down your throat right now. And he did. It was amazing.
Yeah.
It's gone now.
Yeah,
It's gone.
It's really gone now.
weird.
Actually, it just disappeared. I was shocked.
Yeah.
Right, Jesse, go ahead and do the intro. Thanks, bud.
Yeah, go. This week's podcast episode is brought to you by Fuel Bomb Diesel Additive, an additive designed for diesel enthusiasts, made by diesel enthusiasts. Ben, take it away.
Hell yeah, dude. So this is our in-house Fuel Bomb fuel additive for your diesel truck. Our biggest thing here is making sure that you can pretty much always have diesel additive on you all the time. You've got a lot of other additives out on the market that they have, anti-gel in there all the time. They have cetane in there all the time. They end up being big and bulky bottles. Our standard everyday diesel fuel additive is 1 ounce per 32 gallons, and that's its main job is to make sure that your fuel system stays lubricated and prevents the formation of algae. And it should also help you in colder climates too.
Should definitely help you in colder climates. Along with cleaning your fuel system and maintaining it, it'll also help you bump that cetane number up for a more efficient burn of your diesel fuel. And if cetane is just what you're after, there's the Fuel Bomb Hellfire, which is our straight 8+ cetane enhancer.
Yeah, and you guys asked, and we brought them back. We did go away from the bottles that didn't have the measuring little parts in there. We brought them back for you, so now you can measure out your 1 ounce per 32 gallons for the F-Bomb or 4 ounces per 32 gallons for the Hellfire.
Both these additives are available on our website, dieselpowerproducts.com. Now let's get back to that episode.
Welcome to America's Diesel Podcast. It's the greatest podcast on the face of the earth. Glad you're all here.
Not bad.
That's a good start.
Yeah, you can find us on anywhere you can get a frickin' podcast, which is like the internet. You can get it on your phone, on a computer, listen to it in your car, listen to it in a plane if you're so inclined. If you want diesel parts, you go to dieselpowerproducts.com, you get some good parts. And if you mention that you're a fan of America's Diesel Podcast in your order, I think you get a sticker and maybe a shout out or something from one of these two guys.
Hardly.
On either side
No
of me.
stickers.
Oh.
Yeah.
Just no stickers.
Anyways, I'm going to retract previous statement that I made there.
Yeah.
No stickers. If
Well,
you
you
mention,
do get a sticker if you do one thing. And that is...
I don't know.
Leave your 5-star review on any of the
Oh,
platforms
yeah.
that Jesse mentioned earlier. Screenshot that review and send it to Jesse at dieselpowerproducts.com. I'm just kidding. No,
You can. I won't
that
know
a
what to
thing?
do with
Is
it.
that a thing?
Yeah, I think it is, but I won't know what to
Actually,
do with
we'd
it.
probably go to sales, Jesse.
No, because I was here first.
Oh.
Either way, give it a shot. See what happens.
Yes,
Yeah.
just give it a shot.
Let's see where it goes.
Do that, and then also CC podcast at dieselpowerproducts.com. Make sure to include a picture of your truck and an address so we can send you a sticker when we get them.
Yeah, because we are definitely out.
Yeah.
Oh, boys. Okay, this is the second episode we filmed today. It's currently June 21st.
You guys seem a lot more lively than when I'm usually here on
Well,
the first
we're 3
shows.
beers deep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a whole other
Vibe.
going on.
Yeah.
I'm going to have you two duel something out.
Who?
Oh.
Your team coilover. Your team cognito.
Oh, leveling kit versus coilover conversion.
Oh, for your truck?
Oh, dude, really? You want him to keep the freaking torsion bars?
Let's
Yeah.
do it.
I don't even need a microphone for this
Absolutely
one. I just want
not.
to watch.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely.
Get rid of those. What the hell is even going on with the torsion bars? Does anybody even know how they work?
Yeah.
No, nobody knows how they work.
I can tell you how
Don't
they
listen. Turn his mic off when he talks.
It's actually quite a simple process when you think about it.
It's stupid. It shouldn't even be there.
It's a
all right?
spring. It's just in a line.
That's stupid.
Imagine,
That's stupid.
imagine you took a coil spring that does the little coily springy
stretched
thing,
it out to
and
a-
then stretched it out
6
straight.
feet long.
Yeah,
And then made a bracket that hangs down so you
Yeah.
hit fucking speed bumps.
put it horizontally under your truck.
That sounds awesome.
But first they
not
heat it.
overcomplicating it at all whatsoever.
And then they cool it to an extremely low temperature, and they twist it, and then they cool it again.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
Sounds like
it
a
has sprung
a
strength.
very inventive process.
it's like cantilever.
Stupid.
It's like cantilever coilovers. It's like a whole nother way to get there, but the packaging's good. You know.
No. No, I don't know. I'm thinking
Instead of regular
control
coilovers.
arms, A arms, coilover. Sick.
You know what the worst part about doing coilover conversion on one of those trucks is?
Installing them.
Installing them. Installing any part of that system because the undercoating on GM products, it's like that uncured tar.
Oh, yeah,
it's like
yeah, yeah.
roofing tar that they
Well, that's not the
Oh, it's
coilover's
still
fault.
sticky.
yeah.
That's not
Because
the coilover's fault.
if you look at the frames, they must dip them vertically in like a vat
oh,
because
okay.
it looks like all the drops are going backwards.
Oh,
like towards
oh.
the bumper. So
Yeah,
they
yeah.
must
Or
dip them
They usually roll them through.
or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So they come out
And-
for yeah.
And it's not it's always kind of liquid, but it's like worse than RTV to get on your
like
hands
tacky.
somehow.
Yeah.
Because
It
and
clogs up
your
wheels
tools
and-
get covered in it. Like everything gets covered in it. I've probably talked about this on it before because it's something I rage against quite frequently in my own head is how much I hate GM products for that particular reason. Other than that, pretty good. Including the only reason you should buy one, which is they ride nice with their torsion bars.
They also ride nice with coilovers.
No, because you got to spend 5 months tuning your shocks in and changing spring rates and doing all sorts of shit.
No.
And we live in the city with the worst roads in the history of the planet. And you know what soaks those up really well? Torsion bars.
Gay.
I got nothing for that.
I don't even know how to call a winner on that one. Usually, once you start going personal attacks, that means you lost.
Yeah. Well, there's someone who actually installs it, and I don't do the installs.
You know
Coilovers are okay. Cool factor, way better. Torsion
Yes.
bars, super gay.
Yeah. The cool factor on coilovers is there, but as far as driving around every day, like what Corey's going to use the truck for and towing and everything else, is like a good shock package and a torsion key that keeps the torsion bars in their factory spring rate. You know, you're not cranking the crap out of them to get it to raise up. The upper control arms to adjust for ball joint angle and all that. I think it will work really well. And since I have to install it, more than likely, I've already installed this kit once on another truck, and then that was a total like just cluster of.
I didn't hear
a
anything.
bad time.
I didn't hear anything he just said.
So one of the things about Tyler is when he starts going, he's on another planet.
He's gone.
He's gone.
Good to know.
He's
Like I said, I'm learning. I have met two different human beings, and the two human beings I usually do this podcast with when I'm here. I usually talk to Ben and Tyler, but I'm talking to like frickin'
Well,
Frack right now.
We did a podcast together. That was.
I know the thing is the second
but you guys
podcast
weren't
of the day
hammered.
Is always
I'm not hammered.
We're not hammered. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, yes. We're
We're,
not
we're,
hammered.
we're loosened up. We're loosened up. But the second podcast of the day is always a little bit looser than the first one. And we usually when we have a guest, we do one.
Yeah.
So it's maybe we start doing two now.
Yeah, maybe
Because the second one's always looser.
it is. Yeah. Words flow smooth as the.
As the
Smooth
beer
as
into your
smooth.
cups.
Smooth as
It's
coilovers on a
like-
15. But you clean like
my
a
words
16.
are as smooth as a frozen piece of butter.
You guys want to hear what I just went and did? I just went to a
Yes.
used car lot to look at a $26,000 Ford Raptor. And I know what you're thinking. That sounds really cheap
Yeah.
for a 2014 Raptor that looks really nice.
Was it totaled?
It was a piece of crap. One of my buddies was like, hey, dude, there's this really cheap Raptor.
What year?
14. So last of the first generation one.
6.2.
6.2.
Why isn't he just buying ours?
That's what I said. And this one, by all means, loaded option-wise, like more options than the one we have. Nice truck.
What more?
You can get
options
more
are you-
options than
Yeah, it had like heated and ventilated seats. I think ours
Okay,
just has
probably just
heated
heated.
seats.
Yeah.
And it had the fancy interior trim. Like it had blue in the seats and blue in the dash and all sorts of crap I wouldn't
like a-
want.
So
Accent
it was a
package.
blue Raptor then.
No,
Yeah.
it was a black Raptor.
But it had the blue inserts
And
on
it had blue inserts in the seat and
I
blue in
prefer
the
ours
dash.
more than that.
Yeah. The all black interior is killer. Like,
Yeah.
but it was at 163,000 miles on it, and not a ding in the truck.
Wow.
Had like one scratch in the bed where somebody must have hung something over the bed rail.
Mm-hmm.
Clear bra on the front, but you start looking, it's like the shocks are leaking, and I go take it for a test drive. As soon as I fire, other bad sign. This is a good tip for people going and buying used cars. If you show up and the guy says, "Oh yeah, I just took it around the block," they went and warmed it up for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's not a good
Lifter
sign.
issues, valve seat issues.
Yeah. So I immediately get in the truck, fire it up, AC's on, it's blowing air into my face, and I can smell ATF.
Oh, Jesus.
And I'm like, am I smelling ATF or am I smelling some weird interior cleaner? Because it's at a crappy used car lot. It's overly detailed, like they're trying to hide something.
It's like greasy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I go take it for a drive, and the first 3 gears, I'm like, I'd opened the hood on it. Everything looks good under the hood, but it sounds like it has a blower. You hear this like blower whine kind of noise, and I'm like,
They have a tornado in it?
what's going on here? And I'm like, it's only in the first 3 gears.
Transmission.
And I'm like, well, I smelled ATF, and now this, and if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck.
Yeah.
And
It's a giraffe.
yeah, so I drive it back to the place, get out, call my buddy, and he's like pretty Raptor expert. So he's like, all right, look at the shocks, look at this. He goes, wait a minute. He's like, he's kind of on the fence because I'm telling him, I'm like, it's not a deal,
Yeah.
And he goes, go look at the cab corners. That's where they rust out first.
Mm.
And I look at the one side and I was like, oh, yep, there's a big blister there. And it like just started to crack and pop. Go to the other side and there's like a 6-inch long crack in the bottom of the cab.
Oh shit.
Like just blown apart. And I'm like, he's like, yep, never mind.
Goodbye.
Yeah.
So then I came back and I told him, hey, the one we got here at the
Should buy
shop,
ours.
no rust.
Yeah.
All the shocks are rebuilt. Brand new tires. Yeah, if anybody's looking for a really clean Raptor.
It's got Camberg arms on it.
Camberg lower arms. All the shocks have been rebuilt at Ford recently. Brand new 37s. Fuel wheels that are also brand new. Brand new MBRP exhaust. Tuning. Air intake.
Yeah.
It's
It's a nice truck. I
No.
always like the sound of the 6.2s.
Oh, they're
And that one's
Yeah.
got
Throaty.
like 134.
yes.
I know it's
no,
sub
154. It's got
That
154.
sounds right. Yeah, and we're
But one owner truck, and the dude who had it was like 75 years old.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a beautiful truck.
Like had a steering wheel cover on it since day one.
Mhm.
Like nicest truck inside you'll ever see. It looks like a 50,000 mile truck, not 150.
Mhm.
The worst part about the whole truck is there's rock chips in the front of the hood.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, whoop you do.
Oh, so you drove it. I
Yeah.
don't want it.
I know. Underside. It's a really nice truck. I had somebody offer me what I consider to be kind of dumb money for my Charger recently, and
Don't sell that thing.
I could buy that Raptor, and I'm like, I could have like a real truck that works instead of a crappy old Dodge that doesn't.
You don't want that. Don't sell that Charger. I was actually going to ask you the status of the Charger and what's going on.
It's
Someone, one of our podcast listeners actually asked about it.
well, I don't know what you guys know about old cars, but they suck.
Fair enough.
Even the good ones suck ass.
Yeah. Yeah.
This one, I mean, it's a car that sat forever. They're all old cars do this thing, and they nickel and dime you to death until they're reliable, and then they slowly wean off the issues. But I was fighting transmission problems with it. Figured I'd do a band adjustment on it. Pulled the pan, found a bunch of band material and clutch material in the pan, chunks the size of half a strip of gum.
Jesus.
And
The
I'm
stuff
like,
you want to see.
Yeah.
but I was like, I had been fighting all the adjustments and the kickdown linkage and all this other stuff. And I'm like, God, it still just doesn't shift and it's slipping weird. And one of my buddies like, you just don't have the adjustment right. And he goes, maybe adjust the bands and maybe leave them a little tighter than the spec.
Yeah.
So I pull the pan seal, that garbage, and I'm like, So a little tighter than what he said.
Yeah.
So I adjusted them and didn't even change the filter. Didn't change the gasket. Like, gasket came off in one piece. I'm like, cool. Cleaned it off. Slammed it back on there. Because I've like, transmission's junk.
Yeah.
Like,
What's it? Is it has like a 727?
yeah,
What's it?
727 torque flight, which is worst automatic transmission ever
Yeah.
made. I'm gonna bold statement here, and everybody's gonna be like, "Oh, my first gen Cummins has one in it," and that's fine. Yeah, your first gen Cummins has like 97 horsepower.
Yeah. Did you had a 440 for that, don't you?
No,
I thought you told me you did.
I'm still trying to find a good one for it, and I actually found a guy that has all the stuff to make it a 4-speed, so I might end up doing that. Because it's already a Dana 60 rear in it, and it's not a Dana 60 car, but it has a Hemi car rear excellent 410 posi. Like, man, and it's a low option. It's an RT, but it's a low option car, so it's like you're not gonna hurt the value on it by upgrading it even more. Like, if I make it a 4-speed car, somebody's gonna go, cool, it's not a column shift automatic anymore. It's like I'm not cutting
100%.
I'm not cutting the console up or anything. It's like it's a console-less column shift auto car. I found a guy that's got the trans bell housing. He even has the shifter for a non-console car. And I'm like, well, shit, that's all that stuff. And I'm like, yeah, another exciting Dodge issue from the 60s. 4-speed engines for a few years were different than automatic engines, and the cranks weren't drilled for the input shaft.
How Ford of them.
Yeah. I know. That's total blue oval move. Yeah. So sometimes you go to do that and you have an engine that has like a solid puck in the back of the crank, and you're just screwed. And actually, you're not totally screwed, because you can just cut the end of the input shaft of the 4-speed off, which is what a lot of guys like to do back in the day. And then you wear your transmission out like instantly after that. But yeah, so I'm like, great, I'm going to buy all that, and then I'm going to pull that transmission out, and it's going to have it's going to have one of those weird year 383s that has like a solid back of the crank. And then I have to get another engine. And I'm like, man, I just want to find like a 69 Monaco or like Newport or Chrysler 300, some 4-door wagon hunk of crap that nobody wants, that's 440 automatic.
Yeah.
Take the whole thing out, every linkage, bracket, pulley, slam it all in the car. And that used to be a really easy way to do this like 4 years ago. And now everybody thinks that every 4-door car and every wagon and every
440, even if it's out of like a freaking motorhome.
Oh yeah, motorhome engines that people want like $2,000 for them.
Yeah.
No, it's got the RV cam in it.
Yeah. And it's a 440.
Yeah. And all the front drive stuff is like truck specific. It has a transmission with a pinion brake on the back of it and a companion flange. So the transmission is worth exactly nothing.
Yeah.
It is useless. It is only good if you have a motorhome. So it's like, somebody's like, oh, $2,000. Yeah, it runs in the motorhome. It's like, cool. It's 140 horsepower.
Yeah.
Like smog era hunk of crap. Yeah. It is cool.
Probably lower compression too. I mean,
yeah. And some of the early ones, I'm told, like the early motorhome ones and like some of the weird cabin chassis motorhomes that still had like a pickup body on them.
Yeah.
Had 440s with 440 6-pack cams, and they had forged steel cranks. And that was the whole thing, was you would get one of those motors because it's like, cool, steel crank, good cam, and then you do, headers and all the other crap to it. And those are cool. Yeah. Those are like, you don't find them all the time.
Yeah.
So
I don't sell that car.
I'm not going to keep it forever.
Oh man.
I like
if you had that car like running and driving with a 440 in it, I feel like you could get so much more money for it, even if it's not original.
Yeah. No, they're ridiculous.
They're ridiculous.
Yeah. The Project 68 RTs, like if you have an RT car, are 30 to 45 grand for a like.
Well, find another one. You're not going to find another one.
This one, like no joke, I started thinking about it. I was like, in Washington State, this is probably the cleanest original.
Yeah.
Like, barring a 20,000 mile original car, but like car that's lived in Washington its whole life, it's probably the cleanest one in the state because it's sat for too long. Like it just didn't get driven after.
So I know where one Charger is still sitting, and I drove by the other day and it's still there. It's under a tarp. And I know where a Roadrunner is sitting.
Oh.
That's under a tarp that literally has been in the same fucking spot for 15 years.
Oh Jesus!
Like I drove because I went to the dump last weekend, and there's this house on this, because like if I have a load that's like kind of questionable, I'll take the back road so I'm not on the highway. And I was like, oh, I wonder if that car's still there. They at least put a tarp over it, but it's still in the same fucking spot it was when I was in high school. Like it's honestly at that point it starts making me sad.
Yeah,
because I'm just like, oh, dude, I'm not the first person to see that car. And I'm sure
that's always the problem. It's like you look at it and you're like, that guy is probably super tired of getting asked, is that for sale?
Yeah, he probably will just kick you out right away.
I bet he has a sign at the bottom of his driveway that says, no, it's not for sale.
Well, and that's the thing that's like so frustrating to me with people with like some of these old cars that aren't doing anything with them. Like if someone wants to come up and buy that car and actually like put it back on the road, bring new life to that car, get it back going. Like you're not doing anything with it. It's just sitting there deteriorating away. And that, like, I had the same thing happen to me. Like my 63 Ford, I did not want to sell it. I did because I was dumb and stupid and young and I wanted more, money for a truck or something. But like, I'm kind of at peace with it at this point because I know that person that bought it put it back on the road, and actually built it and did that. So it's like, you
want to hear the opposite feeling of that story?
Oh God, no, not really, because it's probably gonna make me feel like shit.
So like one of my favorite things when I sell a car, I've had almost 100 like different project cars, like literally
56 of them right now.
I know. But when I was 19, I bought an 84 Trans Am. And it was brown, metallic, and gold. Like coolest oddball color combo ever.
Brown, metallic, and
like
gold.
Like root beer brown, metallic, T-top.
Fuck yes.
They had the offset actual like ram air hood scoop, like functional ram air that rammed air to the 305 cubic inch small. It was a 305.
198 horsepower.
That's generous. I bet it's 125. But it was a 305 HO. Oh, yeah. Big emphasis.
She's
on
a hoe.
Yeah, she's a hoe. That car would not do a burnout if you paid it. But anyways,
put olive oil on the tires, it still wouldn't.
It was. I paid $300 for it, and my buddy delivered it to the house. I'm like, cool. I got a Trans Am. I got a T-top car. Interior sucked. It was original paint, but it was ratty. And something I didn't remember about was like the door was like not the right color brown. So I end up trading it for a motorcycle, and then the buddy I traded it to pulled the motor to do an engine swap, and then got bored and just gave me the car back minus the engine. Cool, whatever, man. So I get it back, I buy some parts for it, line up an engine, and then I sell it for $300. I sell it to a dude and his like 14-year-old son, and this was 10 years ago. So he's like, man, we've been trying to find one. All the ones we're finding are rusty. They're like looking under the hatch and in like the spare tire area. And he's like, dude, this car has
the water collects on it.
Yeah. He's like, this car has no rust in it. I go, yeah, I know. It's the nicest body on the planet, but it's a 3rd-gen Firebird. Nobody wants them. Flash forward 10 years later.
Everybody wants them.
If you were going to want one of those, like that would have been a really good car to get. So every time I see...
You said 84?
Yeah. Every time I see an 84... that because that odd color combo, I see them every now and then.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I wonder if that's that car. On Marketplace right now, one popped up. And it's a piece of crap. And yeah, just like that.
The IROC.
Yeah. Well, no, I know it's a Trans Am.
Yeah, but the...
yeah, that era.
I always consider that the IROC body style.
Yeah. But, same wheels and everything is that. But, so one pops up for $500 and it's in Hayden, Idaho. And I'm like, my car went to Idaho. And I start looking at it and it had a hole in the front bumper cover. And I was like, my car had a hole in the front bumper cover.
No shit.
And it had like one of the grills off the front bumper cover was gone. And I'm like, nah, mine was complete. And I only have one picture of the car and it's the passenger side. So I send it to my buddy who I bought it from originally. And me and him always have this thing. It's like, one day we're going to see that car, And he goes, no fucking way. I said,
That
yeah,
was it?
I said, it's almost a pretty good chance that it's it. He goes, no, it's 100% chance. Did you see the door? Well, the driver's door is the wrong color brown.
No shit.
And I was like, dude, I forgot about that. It's that car.
no shit. What's he asking for it?
Like $500. And it's in like worse shit, way worse shit. It was not great when I sold it. And it's like, it at least had a transmission in it. Now it's no engine, no trans. Interior's even worse. Body's even worse. I'm like,
that would be upsetting.
but
That'd
I
be
was like,
upsetting.
man, what happened to the father and son project
Yeah.
here?
Well-
they say like, screw this. We found a nice one for $2,500 that works.
Well, Dad got caught probably cheating, and there was a divorce that
Because
happened.
if he's into that type of vehicle, he's a Joe Dirte. Like he's Kid Rock and Joe Dirt.
Actually, now that I think about it, the dude that was selling it, I didn't look at his profile, but I was like, well, it's like a dude in his early 20s. I didn't think about it. It was 10 years ago. It could be the kid.
The kid, well,
It-
probably
he's just
yeah.
24
He probably got
now,
it, and they started
you know?
working on it a little bit, and he's like just not into it. He's probably
Yeah.
into like dudes, and and he. and
Wait. There's a joke there. Hold on. Is he into dudes because he's into trans
yeah,
hams?
well,
Trans-
maybe I don't know. It could be-
okay, yeah.
I'm not gonna make that assumption, but I'm just saying he probably wasn't into it. He was probably into like other things, maybe like fashion or dudes or
Or chicks that used to be dudes.
or coffee or Duramaxes or something like that.
skinny jeans.
And he's probably driving like a Prius or like a Corolla.
Yeah. Dude, I sold a set of wheels to a guy last night, old hippie dude, with a like 78 or 9 Corolla station wagon.
Yes.
And it was the shit. It was so cool. It was like nice blue, had 5-slot mag wheels on it. And he's buying an old set of like 14-inch turbine wheels I had off of the Charger
Yeah.
that are worth, as far as I'm concerned, absolutely nothing because they're 14-inch.
Mhm.
And every time I see them for sale, like nobody can give them away. I can't believe I actually got somebody to give me money for these wheels.
Mhm.
But he's like, coolest old, I mean, beard down to, huge beard, huge long gray hair. I'm like, this guy is awesome.
Yeah.
yeah.
He's driving this bitchin' Toyota station wagon, which I normally wouldn't say.
I was about
This
to say,
one is
like,
pretty
yeah.
cool.
My, how the years have changed that we just said that. Like,
Yeah.
Cool old Toyota station wagon.
It's funny you mentioned
Probably
the wheel
gets
thing.
good mileage.
Yeah.
Like,
Just starts every time.
it was utilitarian. He put a whole set of tires and wheels in the back of it.
Yeah.
Like,
I looked up this morning. What was the first aftermarket wheel company for cars?
first
And like
aftermarket.
first aftermarket wheel. Like that like because I saw a post that was like, I know it was like fake, but it was this like old like Model T, and this guy had like these, it was like an old, looked like an old picture. I don't know if it's probably not real, but it had like these like 30-inch wheels on it. It's like this guy was the
Yeah,
first
the
person.
first guy.
You see-
Yeah.
the first. And so I was like thinking, I was like, who was the first like wheel company to be like, yeah, we're gonna make cool looking wheels for cars?
Mhm.
Do you know what came up?
Kelsey Hayes.
No, it was American Racing torque thrusts, which I don't believe. Like, I'm not saying this is true. I did a quick Google
Yeah.
search like within like 2 minutes. And that's what came up. Like, American Racing was one of the first wheel companies, and the torque thrust was like a
I could see
flagship
that. Yeah.
wheel because it was so much lighter than the
Yeah.
factory wheel and cooling for the brakes.
Yeah, but there was like Halabrand was before that and stuff like.
I'm
I mean,
sure.
there was.
I'm sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
you'll probably see the same thing. I was just like, what? What was the first aftermarket wheel for cars?
Yeah, because there was. I mean, but even just going back to the 30s, like there was Kelsey Hayes wire wheels instead of factory wire.
Yeah.
It's like they're. But I don't know if you consider them an aftermarket in the sense that they were selling, to
manufacturers.
To
probably.
manufacturers,
Yeah.
too,
I was trying to find like the first like, we're gonna make wheels that people could put
Cool
on.
wheels,
Yeah,
yeah.
we're gonna make actual cool wheels that people could put on their cars. Because like you could kind of trace back, like especially like with diesel stuff, as far as like performance stuff.
Yeah, the
it went
first
back
guy
to well, it went back to basically people taking turbos off of tractors and other shit,
Yeah.
and putting them on their diesel trucks, and it's basically kind of just seeing what happened.
Yeah,
So
literally
Bigger turbo, more
yeah,
air.
yeah, like that'll make sense,
Yeah.
but there wasn't like the manufacturer. Like you can't really find like this was the first one to make like an aftermarket turbo for a diesel truck. Like I'm sure that information's out there somewhere, but I didn't have time to really like dive real deep into it. But
it's always fun finding weird facts like that.
I love that shit.
Yeah.
But as far as like putting tractor parts on trucks, that's what even Burton was.
Burton, that's
about
why
that.
I wanted to have him on here.
Yeah.
But
He's like, back when I first started, we found old tractor shit. We're like, hey,
that looked like it'll work.
did the bolts line up? Yeah, fuck it, throw it on there.
Yeah.
Shit.
It's like that meme, the dude from those Australian dudes. That's the will it fit on my Honda?
Yeah.
Like it's that whole
The
mentality.
Mighty Car Mods?
Yeah, Mighty Car Mods.
Yeah. I love those guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, it's cool to see like the original hot rodding.
Yeah.
stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Well, they used to. I mean, what hot rodding basically kind of started from, wasn't it from like people in the war that like flew the planes and they're like, oh, we could take these bomb or what were the fuel tanks,
the belly tanks,
the belly tanks, and we're gonna. That looks like it'd be a really cool car. And they started making those into the bodies of the car, and that's what they were racing.
Yeah, that was all the land
I think it was
speed
before
racing
that.
stuff.
That was all like prohibition stuff.
Well, yeah, moonshine running. Like that was a big start, and that was in what the 30s, 20s, and 30s. So it's like, so there was that led to a lot of it, and that, I mean, that's what started NASCAR. Everybody, that's like into the 40s and 50s, and that wasn't prohibition, of course, but it was just trying to make money, trying to make alcohol that wasn't taxed.
Yeah, well, they had to run. Yeah, they had to be faster than the cops.
But yeah, no, the guys coming back from World War II that now have all this mechanic experience, and like, I mean, if you were a guy and you were driving around a Model T that was used, and now 20-something-year-old Model T at the time, you go to war and they put you in a P-51 Mustang with a 1,200 horsepower Allison V12 in it, or a Merlin later on. It's like, you get that, you're like,
those are the original
Model Ts
adrenaline junkies.
Yeah. You come home and you're like,
this thing's
cool.
slow as shit.
32 Fords are cheap and it's got a V8 in it. What can I make?
Yeah.
You're like, okay, I can take this supercharger and this and that. And I mean, that's how guys like all the greats, Edelbrock and Iskandarian, and like all the great hot rodders all came. Gale Banks, I think, was Army guy that was playing, like they were hot rodding Jeeps and like getting in trouble for it.
Well, I think he was one of the first people to actually make like steroids for horses to make his horse faster. I mean, he's that old.
I heard he figured out how to give horses 2 legs. Like before they had 2, and he gave them extra 2.
Anyways,
but yeah, it's.
Well, have you seen? I think it's called. It was on Discovery. I think it was called Harley and the Davidsons, like the Harley Davidson.
Oh yeah,
dude, that was such a good series.
Yeah.
Like showing the progression of the bikes and everything. I love that old shit.
Well, yeah, I mean,
that's what's so sad about like the diesel side of things is it's not really like a definitive. I mean, it kind of is. I mean, we talked about the story about Rudolph Diesel going missing, but it was
but that's not like diesel hot rod performance.
No, true.
Diesel hot rod performance is
relatively new.
Oh, it's
it's really new.
Less than 30 years old.
Yeah.
I'd say it's almost even less than 20.
No, it's
more. I'd say late 90s.
Late
90s.
In pickups, though.
Correct.
Because in semi-trucks,
You're
going back
right.
to the 70s.
In semi-trucks, those guys were like cowboy and shit.
Yeah, because there was literally like semi-truck races as exhibition races back
and they didn't have any fucking rules. Like, load me up.
Yeah.
Give me some no-dos, which was pretty much just cocaine back in the day.
Heroin. Yeah.
But yeah, those guys, it's like if they were, 400 big cam Cummins and everything else and just pouring the boost and fuel to them and calling it a day. Like, that was the cool. But I think the radical change, it's the same thing with cars, was electronic control.
Yeah.
Because like there's only so much. Yeah, you can turn the screws up on an IDI pump, or you can do the same thing on a pump on any mechanical diesel.
Well,
but
like
it's
a
like
P-pump. Yeah.
it's like you're gonna do that. Oh, okay, I guess like what was the? Because like you guys know, I'm not super knowledgeable on the diesel side, but it's like I always heard about marine injectors.
Yeah.
Like that was the cheap hot thing, was like you get boat marine injectors, and that was a bigger injector to do everything. It's like that's the little stuff. Well, now it's like the world is your diesel oyster. You just go and buy all. It's like everything's proven, everything's kind of figured out to a certain extent. I mean, I know there's guys out there like still pushing the envelope, but you can go on any forum site and go, how do I get this and this and this? Buy this part, go to the junkyard for this, buy this online, do this and that. And it's cool that we're at that point, But it's also kind of sad because it's like there's less stuff to figure out now.
Yeah. Well, do you know, like the diesel performance thing, I think it kind of went like this, right? So it's like the electronic stuff started coming out and people started figuring out how to tune them and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then they were like, hey, so it was like, it started going up with like the electronics, and then they started looking at the old stuff and was like, hey, we could do all this shit to this 12 valve that's already 10 years old. Like, there's so much you can do. You guys have no idea. Yeah. Like, let's go back now.
And they're like $500.
Yeah, they're super cheap. Like, let's just quit screwing with that. Let's just buy a bunch of 12 valves and we can just pop them up this way and do this. Well, and so it was like, it kind of waited, and then it kind of started going up, and then they went back in time, but not too far to like, okay, look at this. Like, I still think, I will always say that the P-Pump 12 valve is 100% the best, the coolest diesel engine that has ever been produced for the aftermarket. Like, the best.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much things you could do to that thing with like a Fisher Price tool set.
Yeah.
Like,
as far as you can literally tinker with it.
You could tinker with it. Like, it's such a cool platform. I absolutely love them. I think they will always be cool in my book. As far as like, I know, you know, with like hot rods and stuff, there's so many debates on like what's the coolest engine. I mean, you know, whether it be a 454, a 440, a Hemi, you know, whatever, you know, a Boss, you know, a Boss 9, whatever. Like, there's a bunch of options there, but like with diesels, like it all goes back to that 12 valve Cummins. Like that is like the original tinkering. That is the original, like, get your hands dirty and do some shit and actually make power. Like, that's why I love them so freaking much. Yeah, they're so cool.
Yeah, they were the small block Chevy of the the diesel world.
Essentially,
and you get almost
at that time there was nobody competing with them with that engine. Like,
because the only other things out there were
a 6.5,
a 6, and it's like you think of the other diesel stuff that came, it just put a bad taste in everybody's mouth. The 6.9 lives forever, has absolutely no power.
Yeah,
no turbo.
Boat anchor.
6.2 boat anchor lives forever, has no power.
Yeah. 7.3 IDI power, or not even power strokes.
Yeah.
Ford diesel
factory turbo.
Yeah. Piece of shit.
Well,
I mean, I will say, and Jesse, I know you're an IDI guy, but the towards the very end of the IDI era, like when you look at the numbers the factory is actually putting out, it was the same, if not better, than the Power Stroke when it first came out.
Yeah. A 94 factory turbo IDI feels almost identical to a 95 Power Stroke.
Yeah.
Like, they're pretty, other than they sound completely different.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they don't to normal people, but you and I know that's like, you hear an IDI with a turbo and you hear a Power Stroke, you're like, oh, okay, yeah.
But you hear an IDI without a turbo and you're like, what in the God's name is that?
Why does that 460 have a horrible rod knob?
But then you hear it for like 35 seconds and it's trying to get through the intersection.
You're looking at it from 100 yards away and you're like, why isn't it getting closer? Is he not moving?
Yeah.
No, he's in drive. No, he's moving.
It's like a Honda with a fart man. You hear all this noise and all this rack and you're like, but you're still here.
Yeah.
But it's like, you think all the other diesel stuff, the 5.7 diesel that was based off of the
gas engine
350.
Yes.
Like,
it was basically a gas engine they converted to diesel.
Those were the most, and it's like crazy that you could get them in everything. I saw an Oldsmobile station wagon that had one, like an 81 station wagon that had it. I've seen T-top cutlasses, like loaded to the brim cutlass with every option. It had diesel motor. You know what the common thread between all of them is? Engine's bad.
Yeah. Well, it's I don't know what they were thinking. They like they like redesigned the engine for less power.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing, guys?
The one of the more interesting ones I saw was a short bed regular cab 2-wheel drive Chevy pickup 5.7 diesel truck. And I was like, wow, this is kind of cool. Like, of course, it didn't have one. It had a 350 in it.
Yeah. Want it.
Yeah. It had a 350 in it. They all do. Most 6.2 trucks, even you see, it's like, it's got a 6.2 badge. You walk up and then it fires up and you're like, no, small block, never mind. But before that, there was like diesel Peugeots. There was weird diesel stuff from overseas that was considered to be horribly unreliable because nobody over here knew how to work on any of the stuff. So it's like, some of the stuff is actually pretty good. Diesel Mercedes.
I was going to say, my grandma had a diesel Mercedes.
One of the most reliable things on the planet, OM617.
I think she had I want to say she had a 78 D280.
Oh yeah, something like that.
Something like that. I'm gonna let me pull it up real quick here, but it was a manual too. I remember that was one of some of my earliest memories. I remember being a kid and this also goes to show you like how car seat rules have changed. I mean, I'm not even that old, but just how car seat rules have changed. I remember being
Yeah, you're only like 45.
Yeah, right. And I'm sure some of the old timers are probably going to chime in and be like, I rode in the front seat of my dad's truck when I was 2.5. I get all that. But I remember being in the middle of the back seat of her Mercedes, and I couldn't have been more than 4. Just sitting. Like no seatbelt, just sitting.
Nothing.
With 5 of my other cousins. And this was like my grandma's call. And my grandma, she's not she's, came from Canadian farmers. Like she's kind of cutthroat, kind of ballsy as she is, but like she'd load us 5 deep in the back and go to the pool. And we're seeing her shifting it and conk. The steering wheel's like 40 inches wide.
But yeah, there's a guy I follow on Instagram that he's a Mercedes specialist, and he has a highboy Ford pickup with an OM 617, I think, in it. And he's currently like trailering. He's got a car trailer with a car on the trailer, and then the pickup's full of it's got like 5 engines in the back of it. And he's still getting like 15 miles to the gallon.
Wow.
And it's just doing it. And I'm like, that thing's rad. Like now I really want that setup. Like that's just way too cool. But yeah, it's like the early, like you were saying, like everything before that sucked.
Yeah.
The there was oddball stuff, the SD33 Nissan diesels, which they put in, you could get them
like
in,
little pickup trucks?
well, so you could get them factory and Scouts as an option.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
In 1980, you could get, I think it was 1 year only in 80, you could get a turbo version of it.
No shit.
And which there was one in my hometown that I remember, and I was like, but that was back when it was like, I guess that's cool for a Scout,
Yeah.
And now we're like, oh God, I wish I had that so I could sell it for.
Yeah, my buddy bought I remember my buddy buying like this little Mitsubishi truck. It was like an older Mitsubishi truck.
Yeah, with a little 4-cylinder.
With a little
turbo
4-cylinder
diesel.
turbo diesel. Like they look like you could put the engine in your pocket.
And it's hilarious because when they're straight pipe, they sound like a Cummins. They sound like a little baby Cummins.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he bought this truck for I want to say it was less than $500.
Yeah.
And it was actually like a clean little truck.
And the weird thing is that little Mitsubishi diesel, they also put in Rangers for 2 years. So
Really?
There was 3 diesel Rangers you could get.
In America?
In America from
Wow.
83 to 88. You could get one with a Perkins that was made by a Zuzu, but like branded as a Perkins. And then there was another little weird one. And then at the end of the run, you could get that turbo Mitsubishi diesel in them. I've driven one. Can confirm they do exist. My buddy's grandma bought one brand new.
No shit.
Regular cab long bed 4-wheel drive 87 Ranger with this Mitsubishi diesel and a manual trans. And it is the funnest thing to drive. It has shocking power for a Ranger. If you've driven 2 3-powered ones and 2 9-powered ones, you're like, yeah, whatever, mini truck. And this thing, it's it's straight piped and it just hauled.
No
that
shit.
thing flat moved for a Ranger. And
wait, what year Ranger was it?
Like an 87.
Oh,
so the square body Ranger.
Yeah.
But the biggest problem with it is that motor doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And
There's
if you
no
try
parts for it, there's no
you
nothing
can't get
for it.
nothing.
Yeah.
you call a Ford dealership,
No.
they're like, we never made a diesel powered Ranger.
Yeah. I don't know what you're talking about,
Yeah.
sir. You've called
Yeah.
the wrong number.
Yeah, and you go, no, it's been in the family its whole life and was ordered this way. Yeah, we didn't make one. Okay, I understand that.
Yeah.
But I have one.
Who's the oldest guy in your department?
Yeah.
I want to talk to him. Well, he's our accountant.
Call him.
Just
Yeah.
put him on the
Yeah.
fucking
Yeah.
phone.
And so that's the biggest problem with the truck right now is it's gotten driven a lot and used, and it needs a lot of work, and it needs parts that don't exist.
You build parts for it.
Yeah, and I don't remember how long ago it was. They had a business, and one of their employees' car broke down or something. They're like, well, you can drive this truck, just take good care of it. And they went out and just drove the shit out of it and drove it hard and blew the motor up, spun a bearing, ruined the crankshaft. And there was
good luck.
no engines in the country. and there was like some dude in Australia that was willing to make a new crankshaft for it.
Jesus.
You know, for like
That was willing to make.
yeah.
Yeah.
And they were randomly getting truck parts out in Moses Lake at the wrecking yard out there, and it was like a big truck wrecking yard. And they're walking by, and on a pallet just out in the yard is one of those motors, just
Oh, wow.
sitting there on a pallet. And they're like, "How much you guys want for that?" They're like, "Yeah, we don't know what it is, like $250 or something, you know, something ridiculously cheap." And they're like,
Yes.
"Cool, yeah, we'll take it. Get it in the truck right now."
Yeah. Don't look it up or anything, but
Yeah.
yeah, I want that.
Well, they would have looked it up and been like, "Diesel
Yeah.
Rangers don't exist."
yeah.
That's got to be a wrong listing.
Yeah.
But it's hilarious when you see the early ones like the 83 and 84s that had the non-turbo Perkins in them, because they're worse than a 2.8, 2.9. Like
Dude, I wanna
shockingly
say-
bad.
I want to say when I was in tech school, there was one of those freestanding engines that we can make run in reverse. I'm not kidding. Like you could like close it up, like you can make it run backwards.
Huh.
Yeah. And like the teachers would like get mad, like quit fucking with the Perkins, like because you can make it run backwards. Like, dude, like I never did it or anything because I'm kind of, I'm like I kind of sit back and just kind of, but they're like, yeah, we can make this thing run backwards. They're like, oh.
You want to talk about crazy hot rodding stuff? That just made me think. So like super modifieds and sprint cars back in the day. That's the coolest era of racing was the 1960s.
Oh,
Like
by far.
Because
Well, they
like-
were making cars. Like they were like making a race car, and then they're like, "Oh, how many do we have to make of these? Oh, 100? Okay,
yeah.
and we'll make 100 of these cars just so we could be in this class."
Well, that was the greatest thing, like the Aero Wars with the Daytonas and everything. It's
Yeah.
like the Torino Talladega with the cool nose and everything, but it's like the rocker panels were tucked further under. There's like
Yeah.
a bunch of little changes. But when you bought those cars, they made them homologation rules. You got to make 500 cars.
Yeah,
Well, they were also trying to homologate the Boss 429 engine.
yeah.
And they're like,
They had to lie about the
Wait.
horsepower ratings.
well, no, they said, do we have to put them in the same car? And NASCAR was like, we didn't think about that. So that's why we got Boss 429 Mustangs and Torino Talladegas, but the Torinos had 428s.
Mhm.
And the
428
Mustangs-
Cobra Jet.
Yeah, the Mustang got the Boss motor because the Mustang was a better seller.
Yeah,
So why
yeah.
not, put this? They should have done it the other way
yeah.
because it's like the Boss 429 Mustangs were like kind of unreliable and overpowered and nose heavy
Yeah.
and everything else. And it's like, you should have put that in a little bit bigger car.
Yeah.
My favorite old story of those old cars, though, is my absolute favorite car on the planet, which is a '64 Ford Thunderbolt.
Oh yeah.
Because they literally had to build 100 of them, and they
Yeah.
only built 100 of them,
Yeah.
and they called them the Hemi Eater back in the day because
Yeah.
they fucking were the Hemi Eater. Like they were badass.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Those
that
were
was-
killer.
Like the coolest, and we're talking early '60s,
Yeah.
like early '60s.
Well, 64 was the first year of the 426 Hemi. So that was
Yeah.
like peak
Yeah,
drag
well,
racing war
yes,
at the beginning
yes.
there because you had 427 side oiler Fords,
Yep.
426 Hemis, and then Chevy had, I don't know, some kind of small block.
Yeah. Well, I just love that they picked the Fairlane as the car
Yeah.
for that because it's such a Corey. Pull up a '64 Ford Thunderbolt. Like that
Well,
is
and
my
it- and-
absolute dream car.
And it was cool that they had like fiberglass hood, aluminum bumpers. I think they had aluminum
They had fiberglass.
fenders.
They had fiberglass hood, fiberglass fenders, fiberglass doors.
Oh yeah, doors.
They had, I think, a fiberglass trunklet as well.
yeah.
A factory radio delete, a bunch of deletes
Oh yeah,
inside.
nothing inside.
They were bare bones.
Yeah.
And you know what was cool? So I had a '63 Ford that was factory radio delete.
Oh,
and
yeah.
do you know how much that freaking radio
A lot.
delete panel was? This plastic
Yeah.
panel that was made in the early '60s.
A lot.
People were asking, even when I had that car, people were asking over $100 for just this delete plate.
Yeah.
God, that car is so incredibly sexy. Like that is.
My
They
favorite
cut
favorite hood scoop of all time.
Is the
is
teardrop hood
teardrop
scoop is amazing, and I love how they cut out the inner.
Yeah,
they took
for
out
the
the
air-
inner headlights,
yeah.
and they're just big, giant,
Just
like
ram air.
dryer ducts.
Yeah.
to the
To the
the
air
engine. Like
cleaner,
that is.
yeah.
They have the sexiest taillights. I think that's like one of the sexiest body styles of a car ever fucking made. That is my absolute dream car right there. Wimbledon white right there.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh, so
I'm
that
gonna-
so where we were going originally when you were saying running an engine backwards
Yeah.
in dirt track racing because you were trying to get weight bias.
Yeah.
So like you see super modifieds even up forever, like they just kept moving the engine further out.
Yeah.
So it's like eventually super mods, the engine sitting completely out of the car.
Yeah.
And the quick change rear end is like 4 feet of axle tube on one side and 8 inches of axle tube on the other side. The drive shaft's just going straight back. Like your rear center section is like outside your seat. You know, it's like everything, the entire drivetrain is outside the body of the car.
Yeah, because it's made to turn one side and
slide. That's it, yeah.
But it's like back in the day with rules and everything, it's like you'd see them there starting to lean the engine out of the car. Well, there was a couple of guys that were running reverse engines, trying to load the car differently. You think you're loading to the right with a conventional
reverse it.
Well, now you're loading to the left,
and you torque the whole frame the other way.
Yeah. So you're putting all your power to your left rear instead of your right rear. And I don't know if it eventually, like, you think about like a lot of stuff guys probably found on accident. You know?
Yeah, totally.
And it's like, so I don't know if somebody was like, hey, let's, make this thing run backwards, or hey, I got a deal on these engines out of a boat because there was dual engine boats.
We got a whole
Had
bunch
an
of
engine
would
that
run.
ran.
Yeah, we got one ran left engines or some shit.
Yeah.
We got a bunch of these weird lefty engines.
Dude, I've always told that I grew up in the wrong time. Like, that time of automotive history is just, it's the glory years.
Yeah.
Like, that is just the coolest. Like, even I can't remember the name of the movie, but it's based off of the true story of the Ford GT.
Yeah. Oh, Ford versus Ferrari.
Yeah, Ford versus Ferrari. That whole story of like that car is just, it's just America.
Yeah.
Like, that is just so American.
I was thinking about that today. That was one of the other, like, because I was listening to a thing about Le Mans.
Yeah.
Le Mans just happened like a week ago. And they're talking about, I was like, yeah, it's kind of boring these days because, like, just everything's good. It's like the biggest problem that they have is like one of the Toyotas. Toyota's won Le Mans a whole bunch of times now, which is weird thinking like back in the day, it was all these.
It was all Ferrari, it was all
and Porsche and Ford and
Aston Martin.
Yeah. And it's like Toyota's like really big in Le Mans. And they hit a squirrel.
Yeah.
And the squirrel like ruined their race day.
That's a big ass fucking squirrel.
Yeah. And I was like, back in the 60s, they had, when they were racing at Le Mans and Ford was trying to beat Ferrari, they had guys going out almost as decoys.
Yeah.
To go with when they had the 427 GT40s.
Yeah.
Because the early ones were 289, they didn't work with a damn. They ended up continuing racing the 289s, and like Holman Moody had some 289 powered cars. But the 427 cars could outrun the Ferraris so bad that they would go out and say, hey, go put them through their paces for 10 laps so they blow their motor up.
Yeah.
And it was like they would go out and goad these other drivers into pushing their cars harder and harder. And the 427 would just do it no problem. And the Ferrari V12s were like getting overspun and everything else. And it's like, it was causing, I'm like, you couldn't do that these days. All the cars are so good. It's like, it's literally down to the driver.
Yeah. All the rules have made things like basically all the cars are on an even playing field, which I that's a tough one because I kind of agree with, but I don't at the same time.
Yeah.
Because it
was what made the IROC racing series cool. Everybody thinks IROC is just for the Camaros, but it's the IROC Camaro is because it was
International
Race of Champions. And they ran Camaros like in the 70s and 80s, but they also ran, I think, 911s for a few years in the IROC series. But it's like, I remember watching IROC races when I was a kid, and it's like Steve Kinzer, World Outlaws champions out there. And it's like F1 guys and dirt track guys and asphalt guys and like trophy truck guys. Yeah. Everybody's out there racing. And all the cars are identical. That's cool. That's driver skill.
It's like Freedom Factory Crown Vics before the internet.
Yeah.
This is on broadcast TV.
Yeah. But now every sport is that. NASCAR, every car looks the same. Oh, cool. This one's got Camaro headlight stickers on it instead of Mustang headlight stickers.
Stickers.
They've
There's
got
a
them
Camry sticker on my NASCAR.
Yeah.
And they all have an engine from Toyota or from Chevy or from Ford. They are all engines that you cannot get in a car. You can get them from Roush Yates, or you can get them from, Chevrolet Performance or something. But it's like, up into the 90s, they were like, Ford was still racing basically a 351 Cleveland.
Yeah. Yeah. No, the old school racing was, I love watching like either the old videos and watching the guys race, or even like the I don't know what they call the series, but like where the guys will just bring all the old cars out and like
just vintage racing stuff.
Vintage racing stuff. One of the best ones I saw was, and this is on a Grand Tour episode where they were, I think they were talking. Yeah, they were talking. It was they were talking about American cars and like obviously like American cars they like. Obviously, they got pretty big, like. But they showed a clip of like a vintage racing of Ford Galaxy.
Oh yeah,
racing these like minis and like the Ford. What's
out
that?
At Goodwood, yeah.
Ford Cortinas.
Yeah.
Which the Ford Cortina is actually a pretty cool looking car.
Yeah.
Corey, pull that up. Pull up a Ford Cortina. I don't know if you've ever seen one, Ben.
Yeah,
they're kind of freaking cool,
like a Mark II Cortina.
But they look like almost like a Chevy Nova 2.
Yeah.
But smaller.
And that was the muscle car.
That was their muscle car.
They did that.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, they're actually kind of cool looking, but what's cool is like it's like the
like that
Brute and Brawn versus like the small engine nimble car.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, that nimble car might get you around the corner, but like that Ford Galaxy with that 427 is just going to eat you up on the straights. And it's just a battle.
Yeah.
And it's power over handling.
I know the clip you're talking about is from Goodwood.
Yeah, yes.
And that's, there's a big white Galaxy out there just like hogging corners up, and it's like all these little bees around this big old turd,
just swarming them, but then every straight, that fucking Galaxy would just takes
off.
So it's like with the track days on street bikes, all the 3, 4, 5, 600s, you get a leader bike out there. Leader bike just decimates on the straight. And then you see him, like, I love mic'd up leader bikes. Yeah. Because they'll be sitting like, ha ha, as they're passing. People are just like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. And like, as they're slowing down for the corner, the 300 guys just like, zoom, 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 zoom. Like, ah! We're just watching him lean and go over like, fuck you. But then the straight comes,
that's racing, because that's horsepower versus handling. It's
because using all of your power or using 60% of your power. Like that's the cool thing about like the hot hatches and like and stuff like that Cortina back in the day. But it's like even over here, it's like Scirocco's and like the weird little hatchbacks. It's like those cars were light and they were 1.8 liter and 2 liter and like but it's like you could drive that little slow car at its limit and have so much fun. Or you could have a GT Mustang and be like, well, I can drive it at like 60% of its limit on the street. Where these other cars, it's like you feel like you're doing 180 miles an hour and you're doing like 70 and you're hanging it out and drifting around corners, but it's like that's way more fun. Like you can't go take your Hellcat out and do that all the time. You're just gonna. That's why there's so many wrecked Hellcats.
Well, then there was speaking of Top Gear, there was a thing that James May did with it was like a Hyundai that it was probably like 5-10 years ago now. It was a Hyundai with like 185 wide tires, and it was their GT model that made like 210 horse or something like that. And he's like, you may be thinking to yourself, this is probably a lame car, but guess what? I get to use all of the power. The tires squeal. I gotta steer it. I gotta drive it, and I feel like I am racing this car. You put me in a Corvette right now, and I'd be out in the grass.
By the way, have you seen the new Grand Tour episode that just dropped?
I have not.
I want to watch it really bad.
It's funny. It is fucking hilarious. So Jeremy Clarkson, I don't know what the hell he's driving, but it's like it looks like an old Rolls Royce car, but it's like a customized car that has like this. You got to see it. And then Richard Hammond.
Spoilers, jeez.
Well, Richard Hammond is driving. Pull up on their new Grand Tour episode. Hammond is driving a SSR Chevy.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing that in the preview.
I hated servicing when those came into the GM dealership I worked at. Like
so ugly. They're an hideous car.
Even as a tech, you drive one of those into the shop, and the other mechanics just make fun of you for having to get one.
Dude, they're so.
You get the fucking retard.
Dude, I would take a Prowler over an SSR.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Prowler.
Whoa.
I would take a Prowler over an SSR. I would. I think a Prowler looks better than an SSR.
3.6?
Dude, the SSR is hideous.
at
That
least
is
you
the
get a-
worst designed
At least you
car
get
ever
a
made.
4 and a horse out of it, though.
I don't care if it has. Yeah, they have a 6-liter. I don't give a shit. That thing is hideous.
You guys are fighting over who's gayer right now.
dude, I would take a
No,
Prowler.
it's me. No, I suck way more dicks than that guy sucks.
Okay, I would say a Prowler is a better rendition of an old school car than the SSR ever will be. Because they at least tried to make it kind of like hot rodish
with
looking.
the exposed suspension.
With the exposed
Yeah,
front
all right.
wheels. Like, they actually made it... Okay, you pull up an SSR, you pull up a Prowler.
I don't want to
Because
pull up
for the-
I don't
for
want to
this
get
visual-
viruses on my
Yeah, you'll be the
computer.
first
All
one
right?
to Google a Prowler in like 15 years.
First off, look at this picture. I totally forgot.
Okay, look. Yeah. Okay, so Grand Tour. Look at fucking Jeremy Clarkson's car.
Where?
So go scroll down. They gotta have a picture of it. I don't even know what the hell it is.
For all
Why
of
is
those, for all of you listening at home,
Okay, that is a better looking car than the SSR.
you want to
hands
hear
down.
a fun fact about the Plymouth Prowler? So Chip Foose,
Yeah.
renowned designer and custom car builder, he
Look at that white thing he's got.
Oh,
What is
yeah.
that thing?
that's like a weird kit car thing.
Is that one
It
of those Zephyrs?
No,
No.
it's some sort of brand. It's like
Yeah.
a weird name.
It's what did they call it? Yeah. I think it
That
starts
one,
with
that
an
green
S.
one, that's the one he built. Is that the one you're talking about?
Well, so that's the one Foose built. But
Yeah.
Foose, when he was in design school, his final project
Was that?
was the Prowler. And the judge was a Chrysler
Oh,
designer.
so he had a
and
boner the whole
said,
time.
hey, we would like to put this car into production. Well, the green one that's on the screen there is what Foose designed. But you can see it looks way different than what the production car became.
I mean, there's
So,
some similarities.
The green one is what the cool designer
Concept.
made,
Yeah.
and then the yellow one next to it is what
Is what
happened
actually got
after all
made.
the bean counters got to
Yeah,
it, and
yeah.
you had to put fenders on it for safety and everything.
Yeah,
And so Foose was always kind of like mad that they ruined his
his design.
design. So he ended up making a run of it. He made like, I don't know if it was 50 cars or 20 cars, but
Of his design.
Of his design later on after he became like really successful.
Yeah.
But we can all blame Chip Foose for the Plymouth Prowler.
I would still take one over an SSR. SSR is absolutely
Okay.
Search that.
But the battle that we're having, that you guys are
Dude,
having,
they
I'm not
are
going to say that
hideous.
we're having because I want to be out of this. But
You're gonna be the
we
moderator.
we can all agree that the worst one is the PT Cruiser.
Oh, but yes, that's. I mean, hands down. That
Devil's
is a-
advocate. Devil's advocate. You could get with a 2.4 turbo.
You
Is it-
can't
it
say
was-
anything good about
It
a
was an
PT
SRT4
Cruiser, dude.
engine in there.
Dude, when I worked at the Dodge dealer, there would be people that would bring in their PT Cruiser that had like all the fancy, like the different grills and shit on them. Dude, they're the ugliest fucking thing that's ever been made.
So the GM version of that was
Look at
the
that. That is
wagon,
fucking hideous.
the HHT, the HRT, the you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yes.
It was like the SSR but a wagon, and it was like a 4-cylinder economy car.
Oh yeah, the little
HHR.
like
HHR.
Yeah, the
that was it,
HHR
yeah.
that was like supposed to be like a version of like the old school like
Panel truck,
panel
yeah.
truck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
get
'cause there was
windows
people-
without
yeah.
windows.
Look at the front end of that car. It's like a Volkswagen Bug on
Yeah.
crack.
Well, I think they were trying to go for that like 48 Chev.
Yeah, they totally
pickup
missed the
kinda
mark.
Grill. Yeah.
Oh, I agree, 100%.
So,
You know what? If there's going to be one thing that you could say was cool about this era was all the weird hardtop convertibles
Yeah,
that had like retractable hardtops. Because there was like
that blue one right there.
yeah,
That's
there was
pretty
all
freaking
kinds
gay,
of
dude.
It's
Yeah.
gay as fuck.
yeah.
But it's got a 6-liter in it
Like,
and a 4 LIDE.
Those had 6 liters.
yes,
They
yes,
had
you can get a
Corvette
s-
drivetrain.
Yeah, like
No
the one
way.
that Hammond is driving is a 6-liter.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
What?
he runs into some problems though with it on the episode. But that is absolutely. I mean, look at like the grill. Like there's zero airflow that goes into the engine.
So
bay.
they basically had the same drivetrain as that weird era of Corvettes that had the 4-speed that were like the
C5s.
C5s. Yeah, right before they went to C6, that small weird
Oh.
fucking
Really lame car.
yeah. So that was basically the same drivetrain.
Like best money for power, probably still out there.
yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
but
like as far as like you can buy a C5 for like 12 grand.
Yeah, yeah.
And go have a lot of fun.
the other oddity with that is the what was it, the Cadillac XLT XT.
Those were actually a Corvette underneath though.
Yes, they were with,
Those
the,
were
with the Cadillac
they
body.
were built on
those
the Corvette
were hot
line.
as
Yeah.
fuck. When those
Yeah.
came in the dealership I worked at, the first time I saw one roll by, I was literally stunned
Yeah.
because I heard it roll by and it was cammed and it fucking loud.
Yeah.
I was rolling. I was like,
When you see one, you're like,
fucking Cadillac.
yeah.
What in the shit? Rolled back in the shop as it came in. I was like, guys, what the fuck is that?
Like that's
Didn't know it existed.
Yeah.
that's a C6 Corvette that's a little bougie.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And then you start learning about how hard it is to find parts for cars that were like
A weird
and I'm
1 year thing.
no, thank you.
Yeah.
All American Classics over on the coast in Vancouver. They talk about they have like the largest collection of Camaros in the country or largest on the West Coast or something. They also have the largest collection of those Cadillacs
Really?
because they have like 10 of them.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
Therefore, the largest. Because I can't imagine like lifetime. There's more than like 4,000 of them.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like they just
yeah,
didn't
they
make
got-
them.
And I remember it's like every now and then they get
XLR.
one in. XLR.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's what it was,
that's what.
yeah.
Yes.
Every
yes.
now and then they get one in, and it's like, oh, look what we got another one, and it's like, God, they're gonna own them all.
Yeah. There's not that many of them.
Yeah.
Well, or they may start selling like a body conversion for those. I don't know. You can slap the body on because there's tons of chassis out there for them.
I'd rather cut one of those up than cut up a Corvette. At least the Corvette looks good.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the sad thing. Like when you look at a lot of the stuff that's like kind of cool and rare now for like the Radwood car shows, it's like XLR is kind of cool for that because there's probably gonna be more at a Goodwood show or a Radwood show than anywhere else you're gonna see. But Mercury Marauders, which was the Crown Vic.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Panther
Yeah,
chassis,
yeah.
everything looks like a Crown Vic.
Yeah. The grandpa's Crown Vic.
But has full body kit, ground effects kit, dual exhaust with the 32 valve 4.6 that the like Cobra Mustangs and stuff.
Yes.
No supercharger or anything, but 32 valve, like lowered, all from the fact like they were awesome cars. But at the beginning of the Crown Vic swap era for like F100s and stuff, Marauders weren't worth shit.
Yeah.
So everybody's like, cool, this one's like
Yoink.
already low and has cool wheels and has a 32 valve in it. Oh, and it's only $500 more than the Crown Vic I was gonna buy. I guess I'll cut this up.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
I remember
yeah.
on a frame swap page, a guy was talking about like cutting a Marauder up, and somebody was like, "Dude, you can't do that. Like those are really hard to find. They're really cool." And another guy chimed up and goes, "Those are my favorite to use. I've cut up 6 of them."
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I taught my son how to use a Sawzall on one just for fun.
Just for fun. Yeah.
That's what we had hanging around.
Yeah.
but it's like all that stuff got just. I mean, Ford Lightnings, like the first gen Lightnings, got cut up all the time
Yeah.
because they had the cool Windsor and had cool seats and they had all this other cool stuff. And it's like, yeah, cool. That $2,500 F-150 is more fun to cut up than this $2,000 F-150.
Yeah.
Like that one's got and now it's like, cool. I cut up a $25,000 truck.
Yeah. Oops.
Shit.
Yeah.
One of my buddies did that to build a desert truck out of it. And he talked about, he's like, yeah, he goes, at a certain point, I just realized that I should probably just use the cab. He's like, the project escalated, and he goes, I ended up just building a whole new frame for it. And basically the only thing from the truck is going to use this cab because it's getting seats, it's getting a whole different interior. And he's like, so I cut up a legit Lightning through this process. And he goes, I parted it out and made like 3 Lightnings worth of money.
Yeah.
Because weird stuff like the throttle. So the intake on a Lightning is actually like almost a tubular intake, like it's got little individual tubes out of the plenum, and it all goes up. They're a really cool intake. You see them on like Fox body Mustangs. It's like the cool hot rod thing for a Fox body, and it required a special throttle cable that doesn't exist on anything else except a Lightning, and there's no reproductions. So he's like, yeah, that throttle cable is like sold for $350.
Jesus.
You know, it's like the seat sold for $1,000. And it's like every little thing was specific on it. So he's like, yeah, the, $5,500 Lightning, I parted it out for $10,000. I'm like, and he still had the body. I'm like, oh, well, but you still cut one up. Dang it.
And you probably could have just done an F-150 body and just bought some plastics for it.
I think that's why he realized at the end of it was like, oh, like,
Yeah.
it's the same thing with so it's my buddy I went and looked at the Raptor for tonight. He bought a legit like 20, I think it was a 12 Raptor, like almost new, and was like, yeah, I'll just do like, he took it home and bumped up the preload spacer on the front struts and put 37s on it. Oh, cool, this is fun. And then like did a couple other things to it. Well, when I met him, it had full fiberglass tilt nose, fiberglass bed, like bed cage, blower, full, like, you know, cut every bracket off the frame and put, like, you know, fabricated control arms and king shocks and everything. And he's like, yeah, I really should have started with just like an F-150.
Yeah.
He's like, because I cut up like a $60,000 truck. And I'm like, yeah, but you're my fucking hero. Like, you cut up a real Raptor to do this? That's fucking awesome.
That's rock.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it was the coolest. That was where I first fell in love with the 6.2s. Like a
Yeah.
6.2 with a Pro Charger on it. Like,
Yes.
That engine, oh my God, that
thing,
engine is,
oh.
it just sounds so amazing.
I remember they first moved to town. His wife was driving it around. And I was like, see this truck around every now and then. I'm like, who's driving this? You know, they're from Southern California. And in Northern Washington, I'm like, that's a fucking desert racer, you know? It's so cool.
Yeah.
And I was like in the grocery store parking lot, like or like driving past it, and it fired up right as I got to its window. And it was single exhaust with a MagnaFlow Magnapack on it. And it was like the loudest thing on fire up. Like, wow. I was like, oh, I gotta have that.
Yeah. That's badass.
I've wanted a Raptor ever since. The only problem is I wanted that Raptor. Like,
Yeah.
like, I got to drive it a bit, and like 40-inch tires and everything else, like going through the like desert highways in like Nevada, cruise set at 100 miles an hour, one hand on the steering wheel. Like, it was a really sorted out truck. And it was like
Sorted out truck.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was like everything you ever thought of, like big tire and aftermarket suspension. It's like, it just didn't matter. That truck was awesome. It drove perfect. And that was the thing. It's like, we drove it all the way to Nevada, hucked it. I mean, really 6-8 feet off the ground, and then drove it all the way back to Washington.
Yeah.
No problem. Like, awesome truck. Greatest truck I've ever had the chance to drive. Like, and it's like, it was a white truck with bare white fiberglass. Nothing was paint matched.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, before we left, we were like trying to sort out stuff. We ended up putting a different tilt nose on it. And he's like, man, and it's had the fender flares like molded in, so it still looked like kind of factory fenders. And he's like, I bet they would look better if they were black. And I was like, I bet you're right. He's like, you want to paint them? I'm like, with like spray paint? He's like, yeah, I don't give a fuck. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, cool. Take it to your house and like have fun. So I like took it home and was like, got the spray paint out on this Raptor. I was like, spray paint the fucking fender flares back into it. I got some overspray over here. It doesn't matter. And
That's badass.
it was so cool. I loved that thing. God, it was so much fun. Like 2 full-size 40s in the back,
Just
for
hanging off.
spares. Like, oh, it was so hot. And then it's like, and then you're in it, and it's like heated seats and nav and like everything else. I'm like, this is everything I've ever wanted in a truck ever.
Yeah.
This is so cool.
Fucking luxury runner.
Yeah, that's why when I look at the Raptor out back, I'm like, I don't want to go that far. I don't want to do all the glass and all the crazy stuff, but it's just like, I just want to put a blower on it.
Yeah.
Just let her eat.
A blower
Yeah.
makes pretty much everything better.
I want a Pro Charger on it, and it's already got 37s. Like, just drive the absolute shit out of it.
Yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
had 10 miles to the gallon.
And happy as fuck.
It's
I'd
just-
be as happy
But
as
the
happy
smiles
gets.
per gallon
Like, yeah.
are freaking just through the roof.
Like, go out there, 500 horse blown wrap, like, which is probably conservative for like a blower on one of those.
hell
like,
yeah.
you know, if you did headers and, you know, a tune and a blower, like, you could probably have livable 500 horse for a long time.
Easy.
And all-wheel drive, kind
Yeah.
of.
Kinda.
Four-wheel drive.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this episode. It's always a pleasure having Jesse back on here. Jesse, again,
Thanks for stopping by.
thanks for stopping by. I appreciate you getting all the stock of MBRP exhaust sorted out today.
It was an 8-hour gym session out in
for
the
those
shop
of you that
today.
don't know, we are an MBRP stocking dealer. And when I say stocking dealer, like a truck dropped off 7 pallets and then another 11 pallets.
No,
Yeah.
we had 12 pallets in the shop, and we got 12 more today.
Yeah, so that's 24 pallets. And there's
a lot of
many do we
exhaust,
count? There's,
people.
24 per pallet?
It depends.
16 per pallet?
There's probably 200 exhaust systems out
Yeah,
there.
so buy some MBRP exhaust.
We're laying pipe over here.
Yeah.
Right? Literally.
Yeah, it was a lot. Like, normally if a big stock order comes in, it's like not detrimental to my work environment out there where it's like, there's some stuff in the way if we got to pull a truck in or out. And it was like today, I was like, oh, there, you can't walk through the whole shop. There's like the lifts are clogged. Like I was like, this is awesome. This is like the most stock I've ever seen in this place. And I was like, how am I gonna work?
Yeah, shove exhaust aside just to get your toolbox.
Yeah. And then 4 o'clock rolled around and I was like, cool. I think I can fit one truck in the shop.
Fuck.
Well, that's going to wrap this one up, guys. Jesse, greatly appreciate being on. And we'll see you on the next one.
Bah. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe and check us out at dieselpowerproducts.com.